Who says you need to go German luxury to get a unique sportback experience? This is the Buick Envista, only around $30,000, completely topped out with this Avenir. Is it worth that chunk of change? We'll see. All right, let's get into the styling here. The Buick Envista really stands out. Buick's really amped up their styling. This week in our neighborhood, there's also the new Encore GX and kind of like this dark orange color, and I can't stop looking at it. Sometimes I think it's this car, but it's a little bit taller, a little bit shorter at the same time. This is more of a sleek German sportback performance car, at least from the looks. We'll talk about the powertrain here in a little bit. We got the daytime running lights that also separate as the turn indicators, and below that we have the nighttime lights. Very fancy grille. Typically you don't see grills with this sort of detail unless it's full-blown luxury. This is $30,000 and this looks really, really premium. The new Buick logo doesn't remind me of my old grandma's Buick. This thing looks very modern, very up to date, and people are gonna be looking at it. They're like, what kind of car is that? This new logo helps that absolutely. And with the sporty bottom here, it gives a little bit of edge to it as well. It definitely looks premium and sporty at the same time. We come to the side, the Avenir not only gives us a little logo here, but it gives us these 19-inch wheels. The base grade, I think it's called the Premier model, has 17-inch wheels. It'll give it maybe a little bit cushier ride. And then there's also the Sport Touring that has, I think it's 18-inch wheels with a darker finish here. These 19s look pretty good overall. We have turn indicators built into these mirrors that are also body paint matched. And then just the overall look from the side. Holy smokes, this roof line. Who would have thought Buick would have had such an aggressive sloping roof line? It really doesn't look like, I don't think, anything else out there, except one of the teachers at my daughter's school said, hey, swap the badges out and people are gonna think it's a Lamborghini Urus. I like how they did the chrome minimal. It is only on the top ridge to accentuate that flowing roof line. They didn't add all this additional chrome down here. Now, one thing I really wish this did have was 4-door smart access handles, but it's built to a price. You only have it here, and that means if you have the key on you and the fanny pack, I can lock and unlock the car from here, but I can't do it from back here, which with kids, that's the door I'm always opening first. Okay, so I have to go up there. So here's something surprising. We have I forget the specific name, but you do not have a lid here for the gas cap if you want to come in close. It's a capless fill, which is pretty nice. That's typically something you might only see on higher grade vehicles. All right, let's focus on the back here with the Buick Envista. I think it looks really sporty from the rear, just like it did from the front. The new Buick logo, and it's typed out here because from the back, you're like, what's that logo? Buick's like, you don't have to ask anymore. That's what it is. Now, what might be confusing to some people is they might think the Avenir is the actual model. That's just the top trim level, right? Because this badge is about the same size as this badge. So people are like, well, is it an Avenir or is it an Envista? To me, that was a little bit confusing at first, and I think it is going to confuse some people out there. Maybe if they, I know they're going for symmetry here, so symmetrically it does look good, but it can be a bit confusing with two different big brands there. Now, this model also has rear parking sensors on top of the backup camera, which is a great feature to have, and just a little bit of chrome here. I do not mind that. You don't have any visible tail exhaust here either. So that's all tucked up under to kind of give it a more sleek look. And let's go ahead and open up the lift back here. I do have auto lift back here on this Avenir model. Lots of cargo capacity. Come in close because it's going to be dark inside. We do have a spare tire. Look at all this space. You could probably put additional things underneath there as well as a kind of hidden storage. But back here, it's pretty basic. There's no 12 volt or anything. It's pretty much hard touch plastic. The seats will fold down. And here's a nice thing that when you're looking out the rear view mirror, you kind of have this stylized tonneau cover that kind of simulates like sliding through the air, kind of like this contour. So I like that feature here. It's a small detail that most people wouldn't pick up on, but it closed the door right there. Abe's getting a little upset. We need to get on the road. We're gonna open up the hood here, because I mentioned the powertrain. A little over 130 horsepower, a little over 160 pound-feet of torque, made it to a 6-speed automatic. Tiny engine, getting around 30 miles per gallon. Pretty heavy hood here. You do have the traditional prop stand here instead of a shock, but again, it's built to a price point and it's perfectly acceptable. What does this feel like? Very satisfying hood close, fits very, very nicely. Let's give you a sneak peek of the back seat real quick, and then we'll get on our drive. Again, the small details here that I'm still picking up. This matches the grille design, this kind of flowing waves. It almost reminds me of Infiniti. We just reviewed an Infiniti lately, and it has a very similar wave pattern. And then look at the waves also on the top of the taillights. Very nice attention to detail here from
those waves
Buick.
are also inside. Screen has the same angled waves.
So you pick up on that stuff and I don't, but that's amazing. Yeah, no, it's the small details that Buick has not overlooked here, right? They keep baking it in unique areas. The back door here panel, it's pretty cheap, but at least you have a little soft touch for the armrest, a little stitching here. I'm gonna take this from you real quick. Again, nice stitching on the seats. I'm at 6'1", and there's enough space here for a rear facing seat that's gonna be great. And check out this floor, it's completely flat. You typically only see that in electric vehicles. Coming to the middle here, we have a USB-C and a USB-A, a little compartment there, and also mat pockets on each back of the seat, which has a nice, very soft touch premium feel. Gigi has a little armrest down here. One last thing before we get on the road, check out these nice seats. It's a windy day, so the debris coming in. Avenir here on the headrest. Very nice stitching, kind of like this modern techie sort of stitching. Almost reminds me of the Matrix, kind of those binary numbers flowing down. Very, very nice. These seats are super comfortable. With that being said, we need to get on the road. Setting off in the Buick Envista with the Avenir. Some nice discoveries there.
It does drive on the right side.
Yeah, those are right-hand drive. Yeah, because they're imported from Britain. But this is not imported from Britain. This is imported from Korea, South Korea. The engine is actually manufactured in Mexico, transmission Korea, and this is a very unique vehicle. I already said with the exterior styling, it looks like nothing else on the outside. The inside though, Cass, what are your impressions?
For the price point, because you told me all that about that earlier, it's nice. It's like, not fabric, but it's softer.
Yep.
I love the black on black.
Okay.
There's not too much shiny bits.
You're right. You know, there's just enough. You know, typically I hate glossy black, and we're gonna have to get around. Are these refrigerators? What are we doing here? Like, I don't know either. That's a sports bar that got bought out, and there hasn't been anything there for a year. Yeah, let's get into this engine real quick. This little 1.2 turbo. Oh, I just did a burnout.
You did a burnout, hon. That's not cool. Oh.
I love the performance of this thing. From like 0 to 35, 40, it's super perky, lots of torque, and you hardly have to wring this thing out. If you do wring it out, that's actually the first time I've put the pedal down all the way.
Oh.
And yeah, after that initial surge of torque, there's really nothing there.
Yeah.
But for daily driving, it's an amazing amount of torque and horsepower. You don't have to wring it out. It's pretty smooth. Even with it like trying its hardest there, it wasn't that loud.
No, it wasn't.
And the shifts are super smooth. Like,
yeah, it's nice.
I think it's worthy of a Buick powertrain. It is smooth. It's not old V6, but hey, I'm getting 30 miles per gallon, and that's something the V6 couldn't do unless maybe you're on the highway. I'm getting 30 mpgs in the city.
Nice. Oh,
yeah.
I like the angles too.
Do you? Okay, yeah.
These angles are beautiful. Very mid-century.
Very mid-century, and this is kind of symmetrical. We have an 11-inch screen here, and a smaller, I think this is a 7 or 8-inch screen here. And they made the software black, so it kind of fades into the bezel. You don't really know where the screen ends and the bezel begins unless you look really, really hard. Now the sun is showing
so you can
right
see
on this, so you can see. I love the volume knob here, the leather steering wheel, the stitching's nice. Heated steering wheel, heated seats up here, wireless charging, you love that.
Oh yeah.
It does have wireless Apple CarPlay and wireless Android Auto.
Nice.
We have two USBs up here, one USB-C. We have start-stop engine technology. The engine's off right now.
Oh.
And
It's not my
but
favorite.
it's smooth.
Yeah.
Let me get off the brake here.
Hasn't kicked in yet. All right, that's
Okay.
not terrible.
That's-
It wasn't. The sound was maybe obnoxious, but it wasn't terrible.
I am actually pretty pleased with that.
Yeah.
It didn't shake the
It
car.
didn't shift hard.
And unless you're
Yeah.
listening for it, you wouldn't really notice
Right.
it.
It wasn't bad.
Now, when you are idling and the engine, or let's say you're stopped and the engine is idling,
Mm-hmm.
it is, you do feel some vibrations, but it's not obnoxious. It doesn't really shake the car too much. So, doesn't that look like Chris Evans? Kenny Loggins?
Kenny Loggins.
He's a little before our time, but
Yeah. I don't know that guy.
you know Kenny Loggins?
Is he like-
Highway to the Danger Zone.
Oh,
This vehicle
yes.
is definitely not
I know that one.
Highway to the Danger Zone, but it will do burnouts, as we found out. Now, I do have the wireless Android Auto going, and which is pretty cool because not only will it take up the full screen, I have these shortcuts here to get back to Kenny Loggins. It's fantastic. So, boom, right back to Android Auto. I love it. I really enjoy this implementation of the technology here. I haven't had any hiccups with it at all. Like, Android Autos work really flawlessly here. Climate control down here is very minimal and intuitive. No, we don't have ventilated seats even here on this top of the great Avenir model, but
Right.
we do have the heated seats like I mentioned, and it's really nice. Let's talk about the handling here. Powering out of the turn. I think it handles great. It handles more like a hatchback than it does a crossover.
Yes, I'd agree.
Yeah, and it feels really planted. And it is front wheel drive, which is great for snowy climates. But people who want all wheel drive, it's just not available here on this model.
No. Oh man.
Yeah, I know. Abe's not very excited about it being
No.
front wheel drive only, but it keeps the cost down, and it keeps the MPGs up.
Oh.
And here in Florida, do we really need all wheel drive?
No.
No, unless you want like a lot of performance so you can put on all your power, but that's not what this vehicle's about. It's about good price to performance, good overall vehicle, good functionality, high seat point, right? This is
Right.
higher than a sedan, higher than our Prius.
Is
you
it
know?
really? Oh,
yeah,
nice.
it's up there a little bit, but it's not as big as something like the Nautilus.
Right.
But this is going to get a lot better fuel economy than something like that.
Okay.
What else? Oh, we also, on this model, we have a sunroof.
Nice.
And in terms of safety features, it does have radar cruise control, but that is optional even here on the Avenir model. And it does have lane, not lane center, but lane departure alert.
Oh, okay.
I don't
that's
know why
nice.
he's so upset.
I know the car's moving. Is
I
it not
know.
bumpy enough for him? This might be too
It might
smooth.
be too smooth.
It's too smooth.
He's really
for the
picky
baby.
about the ride. And if the car is not moving fast enough or it's not bumpy enough, he
He is
doesn't
not
like it.
happy. No.
So, I mean, the ride quality here is fantastic, even with these big 19-inch wheels on this Avenir model. So, I really like this car. There's not,
Yeah.
I mean, it's not super fancy, but it does get looks. On the inside, it's perfectly executed with
Yes,
the technology.
It's very nice. It doesn't look cheap or
No.
like low. Yeah.
No, it doesn't.
Maybe
It's
cheap's not
pleasing.
the right word. Right. But
Yeah,
it
it's
doesn't
pleasing.
Look,
And it's definitely more than enough for the price point. Let's say
Right.
like a Corolla Cross in this price point has not as nice of an interior. Even the screen is smaller on some of the competition. So, you know, Buick has a really nice vehicle in their hands here. And getting
Yeah.
into the brakes, I actually need to turn here. They must have cut down some trees on this intersection because it seems a bit barren.
it does.
But they, the braking here is very predictable, good stopping power, and great power for city. Highway passing power is going to be a little bit lacking, but for a city car, this is really, really impressive. And you get this powertrain even on the base grade, which I know is going to be
Oh.
not as impressive as that V8 we just heard. But again, the price of performance and the fuel economy here and the looks. A lot of people want to have that look, and this thing
Right.
kind of does a lot really, really well. There's nothing about this vehicle that turns me off. I know the styling is a bit polarizing, so some people wouldn't want to be seen in it, but for me,
Really?
I like it. I think it's cool.
I think it's fine.
Yeah, me too. So, you know, Buick's standing out here in this compact or subcompact segment. They also have the Encore GX. He was definitely over the double yellow lines there. The Encore GX slots below this, and that looks really nice. I guess it's more of like Kona size, the old Kona. This is more of like the new Kona size. It is big enough to fit 3 kids in the back. We took 3 kids here this morning.
3 car seats?
Yeah, 3 car seats, but you got to have a real small booster seat for the middle seat. But rear facing seat, we already showed. Oh, that's a cute little beach cruiser there.
Cute.
I don't even know what that is. We're gonna end it there. We really like the Buick Envista. I had no expectations going into it, and handles good. It's quiet. It's smooth. Good city power. Good fuel economy. Good tech. Pleasing enough interior. Comfortable seats. I didn't even mention that. So
yeah, they are comfortable.
Yeah.
It's a good car.
It's a really good car for $30K, and you can get the entry-level model. I think it's called the Premier model for about $25K, and you can get the optional blind spot monitor on that, and you're set.
Nice.
So, well done, Buick, and I'm excited to test more Buicks on the channel. This is my first one, so we got to end it there with Ava being a little upset.